All right, we have 100 people, 100% of people answer. And most are somewhat familiar with citizen science, but haven't contributed to citizen science projects before. Great. This webinar was designed for you because we are kind of starting from the beginning and the basics of the resources that we have been developing in the last few years. It's going to be, a quick webinar, but a lot of the resources that we've developed are designed to build your capacity and your knowledge and your confidence in citizen science, and ultimately allow you to be a facilitator to others in your community to participate in citizen science. So we've already started this. So if you have just joined, let us know where you're from in the chat, your name, organization, your location. It's so great to see everybody. We have some coast to coast representation today. We're going to start with just introduction to what is the concept of citizen science, and then Emma is going to take you through getting started, some of the foundational tools that we have, Emma from SciStarter, and then Robin is going to tell you, who's also from SciStarter and a retired librarian, our wonderful asset to us, helps us really customize these resources for libraries. It's going to tell you about building awareness and interest of citizen science in your community, and some programming ideas that we have seen popular and successful as we've been working with libraries, and then we'll open it up to questions. So what is citizen science? Type in the chat, what do you think it is? What have you heard about it? And what comes to mind when you think of this concept of citizen? Sometimes it's called community science, sometimes it's called participatory science. There's a lot of different words and phrases that float around that sort of encompass this concept. So what do you think it is? Let us know in the chat. Aiden says getting regular people, I'm assuming meaning not scientists in a lab, which is exactly right, to experience elements of or larger science, like tagging butterflies. Yep. What else? What are some other things that come to mind? Kristen says engaging the public in simple, or maybe not so simple, science data gathering. Water quality sampling, says Elizabeth. Jolene says getting people in the wide area to provide data. Absolutely, you are all spot on. Citizen science is this idea of partnership between real scientific research and researchers and the public. Anyone can participate in citizen science. It's a collaboration, and it's how people are making an impact about issues that they care about. Citizen science came to be because scientists have a lot of either research and data that needs to be analyzed, or they need more eyes and ears on the ground to help collect data, like tagging butterflies or collecting water samples. Here are some really fun examples of citizen science projects and some of the real impacts of citizen science. So we know that bird populations are declining 50%. By 50% because of citizen scientists, because of the eyes and ears on the ground. Birds are breeding earlier. I'm sure we've all noticed this in terms of the climate warming and things like plants budding much sooner than in previous years, like flowering species are moving 9 days earlier. A really fun project included scientists asking volunteers to sample collections from their belly button, which helped us to identify that there are 50 plus types of bacteria living in your belly button. Wouldn't have been possible without citizen science volunteers. And it really is all about accelerating scientific research. And there are projects for everyone. On the right are just some examples of citizen science projects. One that's very popular is called Stall Catchers. It helps to accelerate Alzheimer's research by playing an online game where you identify stalling neurons. Another one is Globe at Night, which is all about light pollution. And it's asking folks to go out and to measure light pollution, which helps us to identify where we have light pollution, which has lots of different effects, from sleep to obviously stargazing to bird migration. And then there's ones like I See Change. You may be familiar with some of those the most. That's about going out and using your eyes and ears and your senses to collect information about your local environment and take photos and upload it so that scientists can see what's going on in places that they are not. Sort of the broad goals of citizen science. It broadens the scope of who can contribute to science. I like this term of regular people, right? We are dismantling this idea that science can only be done in a laboratory with a lab coat on. I think that that has negative effects for a lot of people, sort of these misconceptions. So it's really broadening who can contribute, from young people all the way to older adults. It enables people to engage and build their confidence and with scientific reasoning and the nature of science and data collection, analysis, and interpretation. And ultimately, it really does accelerate important research because of the people power behind citizen science. SciStarter, which is where we are all housed, as well as some partnership organizations. I also work for an organization called the National Girls Collaborative Project. SciStarter is a great partner to so many organizations. They are a global hub of citizen science. If you haven't made a SciStarter account, please make one today. We're going to put those links in the chat for you, and go and explore what different projects SciStarter has curated. So SciStarter is a curator organization. We work with citizen scientists, with other organizations to help make participating in citizen science easier. We have a database of projects that you can search by subject matter, by topic, by audience, right? Some are more youth focused or good for youth. Some are good for indoor spaces. You can search by location, and SciStarter enables you to be able to do that. So not only do we have this project finder, but now we've become this hub for community-based organizations like libraries, offering professional development and other resources to help you be that facilitator organization for your community. Why did we start working with libraries? There are barriers to participation in citizen science. For one, and there are a lot of needs, right? We know that there's a global demand for increased science and literacy engagement. And there's a desire from the community to participate in citizen science. Often citizen scientists felt isolated, or they lacked some of the necessary specialized tools that you may need to participate in some projects, like the Globe at Night project that I was talking about with light pollution. You do need a light meter for that. And if you don't have that, you can't participate in this project. So what we have been doing is partnering with libraries to offer not just the resources, but a hub space, a community space for citizen science. Libraries had a desire for turnkey yet adaptable, locally relevant resources, where you can sort of look at our curated resources and adapt them to your needs. And obviously for scientists, there is a lack of public awareness of citizen science. And so libraries really are the key to meeting some of these barriers to participation. What we've been doing is launching, I think when did we start? May of 2021, we launched the Citizen and Community Science Library Network in partnership with Arizona State University, SciStarter, and the National Girls Collaborative Project, managing this network of organizations and community-based organizations that want to engage their communities in citizen science. So we encourage you to sign up today. It's free to sign up. We have newsletters, other grant opportunities that come through. We are constantly testing new models of how to engage the public in citizen science and partnering with libraries to do so. And this has really been, I just love working with libraries. I have to say, I'm not a librarian, but it's been 10 years now. I've been working with libraries on various STEM engagement projects, and there's just amazing places. So I'm so happy that you're all here today. the goals of the network, what we're here to do is to support you and to build your capacity, to support you in engaging your users in citizen science, in finding places where we can get together on webinars like this to collaborate with each other, and then ultimately to accelerate scientific research. Oh, not to mention broaden participation of diverse communities. That's something that we're passionate about. Like I said, dismantling sort of the historical ideas of who can participate in science. Okay, any questions about the origins of the project or the initiative, about what citizen science is or is not? Feel free to unmute at this point. You do have that ability, and ask questions before we go into some of the resources.
And of course, if you can't think of a question now, feel free to put it in chat anytime during this webinar.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Emma to tell you about some of our foundational resources.
Excellent. Awesome. Just to introduce myself briefly, my name is Emma Giles. I have worked with the libraries for about a year with SciStarter to essentially go in and help them work through building events and programs, especially in Arizona. I no longer live in Arizona, so I don't work as closely with them, but I did a lot of boots on the ground going to these libraries. And so with that experience, I think I have a little bit more information than I used to about how this works for you all. But any questions or like specific circumstances, if you have specific circumstances you want to mention that might be a barrier, we'd love to hear about them. Also, like to answer the questions or to answer and find solutions for you, but also just to know about things that we don't already know about. Yeah, so I just wanted to preface with that. And I will go ahead and get us started with talking about how to build your knowledge. So when you're getting started with being involved in citizen science, we have a lot of starting places for you to begin with. So for 3 examples that you have, and this is a short list and there are more to be included here just from finding things and exploring on the websites. But to get you started, we offer self-guided training tutorials to get you specifically an understanding of what citizen science means, what community science means, and what that means for libraries. So we have 2 specific trainings. One is the Foundations of Citizen Science that gives you the ego boost of I know what I'm talking about for citizen science. And then libraries as community hubs for citizen science. That training is all about what you already do at libraries and how to incorporate these things. I've taken both trainings and can say with proper certainty that it gave me so much information to actually get started. So it helped me a ton as a non-librarian moving into this space. So would highly recommend. And you can also receive a digital badge. So it's a good motivator for if you're talking to your peers and staff members, they can actually get a digital badge associated with it. So you can put that on your LinkedIn, for example, and other social medias that show your actual skills that you developed and it's specific to you, which I really appreciate. And I definitely have on my LinkedIn. So and we also have monthly live webinars, which I'm going to add to this list verbally. I am the host of the SciStarter live webinar. That's mostly every week to talk through a different topic. So if you're looking for inspiration for different programs or different subject matters that you want to explore through STEM programming of any sort, and citizen science might be the answer, you can join us for those. We also talk about pollinator activities in STEM, and summer reading is a big one we work with to keep people involved over the summer. We make sure we have speakers ready for you to talk through the expertise of different things, and make sure we give you examples of how to actually put these things in action. So we've had librarians come online with us in webinars to explain what they did to make it the best possible event. We do also have guides and turnkey resources for you. So event guides on how to get your event started, kit building guides, which the kits will be discussed a little bit later, so I won't go too far into that. But we want to make sure it's as easy as possible. So we have all the promotional materials that you could ask for, and you can adjust them depending on your circumstance at your library, and facilitator slides and guides to help you train others so that you're not the only one working on this. You can have friends help you together, right, within the library space. So as far as building your knowledge, that about covers it. In terms of actually bringing that knowledge to your staff, this is where I did a lot of work talking to libraries about new programs. So most recently we made a new kit for a pilot program in Arizona, which again, kits we'll describe later, but it's just a set of objects to help you with completing a citizen science project. And in order to do that, we had to engage more than one staff person, right? We had to talk to multiple so they could all figure out what to do. And so in preparing your staff, a big part of it is simply having the meeting and setting the time aside to actually have that conversation. You can even include things like citizen science projects within staff meetings to get people moving. So it's a great icebreaker that I've used in multiple trainings with libraries, where I've made them look at squirrels and identify where the squirrels are in the road to determine if squirrels are reacting well to traffic movement. We're trying to prevent roadkill is the point. And it's some grad student who was working on this project. And I made the staff do that with me before we even really talked about anything, just for fun. So it's a good way to just get them interested in something or get them interested first before you really talk about what the subject is. We have a Citizen and Community Science Library Network, which I hope you all know about at this point since you're here. But anyone can join that just by filling out that one form so that we can get your information and send you the newsletters. So it's really easy. You don't have to be like the #1 person at the library to be responding about this, about the network or communicating with us, but it's just a good continue to get information so there's more than one person. The training, of course, I've already mentioned, it is really helpful and works for professional development. So if you're looking for versions of professional development, you can adapt that to fit your library's version of that. And we have a community guide, a library and community guide that has a lot of information in it that you can use to get started too. And that's kind of like I like to call it like the Bible or the dictionary or Wikipedia entry for all of citizen science and libraries. It's really impactful and giant. So it's a really good thing to Command F and just search for the things that you want to find, right? Regarding the ways in which you can actually get started and do something after you have your community at your library, your staff engaged, and you have the knowledge, that's when you can actually start doing things. And I know I'm giving you a lot of info, so feel free to add questions in the chat as they may come up, especially as it comes to these next 2 slides. So if you are getting started, a big part of doing any program, which you all know, is matching it to what your community actually needs. We don't want to give opportunities for something that will have zero interest, right? We want to actually serve our communities. So one of the 2 questions I want to encourage you to ask are, what do you actually hope to achieve as a hub? Why are you involved today? What interested you? And what does that mean for your audiences? So what audience at your library are you trying to reach, if that is why you're reaching out to us, or what audiences can you reach? Adult librarians and youth librarians included, citizen sciences for all. And what projects might be interesting and what might be a part of what might be the project that will benefit your community. So a lot of these projects encourage hyper local action in terms of an actual problem. So if you are looking at citizen science through the lens of I See Change, the climate change app, where you're taking pictures of your environment and saying, it's super rainy and it's weird for it to be raining on this day in whatever month, that activity is super hyper local. So even though you're giving it to a big database of observations, when we get a lot of observations in an area reacting to things, we can connect dots between municipalities and taking action and making real stories as to how climate change is affecting a specific area. So you don't need to look at citizen science being available everywhere as being, oh, that means it won't actually impact my community. A lot of this is big database, but really awesome hyperlocal responses when you take the time to do so. So that's one part of it. If you are asking what your community cares about, you can look through the trends. So as librarians, you have a lot of information about what you just see in the library. You hear things. That's important. You don't want to start from scratch. And so you can use all that, listening to the local news or following it anyway, discovering trends in how people behave at the library. So what books or what topics they're interested in, what questions you get most often, and just open a dialogue. Before you do anything, if you don't want to spend the time building something that you're not sure will work, get that data, get that mini focus group information before you even get started, just to make sure you are down the right path. So with that all in mind, with your brains thinking about what that might mean for your library, in the chat, we have a question at the bottom here. What comes to mind when you think about your community needs, or interests related to science? So are there any topics in your area that are particularly impactful for your groups? Are you just have a lot of people obsessed with pollinators? Maybe you have amateur astronomy groups, anything like that pushes people to have certain trends and topics. Do we have any examples of that? You can unmute for this too if you prefer, or you can drop in the chat. pollinators. Thanks, Christine. Yeah, pollinators are super popular. It's an often used one, and we have a kit for that, or a guide for a kit for that. Excellent. Any other takers? Ooh, we're still trying to find out what people want here. We did start a pollinator garden here though. Awesome. Yeah, just doing good things for the world is a good thing. And so beautifying the area by having a pollinator garden, both in supporting the species of pollinators and also just it's beautifying the area is a big starting point. That's awesome. I'm excited for you to have started that already. Cool. Oh, sustainability audits, estimating kilowatts used, for example, in a space. Ooh, I love that. I like that a lot. That's very cool. There are several projects that probably would work well with or like adding on to that or reinforcing those ideas, especially with litter related almost. So sustainability, not from power, but just looking at your area and types of trash and whatnot. Awesome. Okay, one more and then I'll keep moving. We happen to have a former NASA program planner in town. Nice. And she loves doing astronomy and space programs. So we are looking to do some work together. That's awesome. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Use your subject matter experts. I'm jealous. They're probably super cool. Excellent. All right, I will move forward. If you have any other examples, feel free to drop them in the chat still. So a big part of why I'm here is to prove the point of you don't need to start from scratch. We're not asking you to do something that's way beyond your bandwidth. We want to match your bandwidth and we want to make sure that you just dip the toe in and get started to build momentum. And so that means that you can use your resources you already have available to you. You don't need to work super hard to get access or to build something new. So examples of those are on the screen right now. So if you have departments of public works and environmental quality agencies, park rangers, that's a really, really substantial resource for you that you can use for subject matter experts. You can use them just for information and just whatever curriculum or data they have already to just be able to communicate knowledge to your library, things like that. So the picture off to the right-hand side here is a library called White Tank. It's in Arizona, and they're right next to the White Tank National Park. So they're a big deal in terms of environmental, natural environment, which allows them to do a lot in terms of events where they just go and hike around and take pictures of all the animals and plants they see for an iNaturalist project. So simple use of your environment is very helpful. So local education institutions too, high schoolers or colleges and different universities and college or what are they called? Community colleges. They often want to get involved and build bigger things. And so you can use them as facilitators, use them as volunteers, use them as your audience that you want to reach, use them as subject matter experts. There is no end. And then I already mentioned, oh, no, I didn't, never mind. Unique and local expertise. We've had beekeepers be used as subject matter experts before that are just connected to the library. Master naturalists exists in a lot of states. And you can use them as immediate access. They're just regular people with the love of knowing what biodiversity is in their area. So I'm sure they would be happy to lead an event for you. So the work is even less too. International Dark Sky Association is a good reference point as well as any astronomy groups. There are recreational versions of that, like an amateur astronomy group that might already exist in your area. So just including them as either your audience or your reference point for information, all those things allow you to avoid building from the ground up, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel if there's already people there and topics and information available to you. So with that, I will ask you the last question. What kind of STEM programming do you offer at your library currently? So is there anything that you're thinking about right now that is done at your library that you can maybe build off of to add in a little aspect of citizen science or community science? So another example of this is if you have an astronomy group that meets at your library, you can have them add on a 10-minute activity to contribute to a citizen science project, such as Globe at Night, where you're looking at light pollution. So things where they're already involved, people are already there, but you can just add on a thing. Do we have any maker spaces in the group, by the way? Just type out Y or a thumbs up. If you have a makerspace, there's quite a few things you can do, especially for very unique programming too, because you can add on to makerspace activities with projects. We have a group out in Arizona who we are asking them to build into their makerspace activity of building a Corsi Rosenthal filter to like filter the air in the area, and we're going to build a makerspace activity to have them do that with a group of people and just build a bunch of filters. And so that could be a really fun activity, and it severely impacts your air quality in that it makes it way better. So that would be great. 4-H, yeah, 4-H. So connecting with those groups that already exist and work with your library, absolutely. Working on a makerspace. I wish you luck, Aiden. That sounds great. Awesome. The seed library, excellent. Yeah, you can offer that as like a giveaway during a citizen science program too. We currently offer a teen STEM program where we utilize county science kits from their makerspace to introduce science concepts to teens from 12 to 18. We also have a seed veggie library. Awesome, Kira, I love that. Oh, that'll be
I
really
see so
fun.
many connections to all of these things. For Jessica, 4-H, we've actually worked with 4-H before, to around citizen science, and they are absolutely interested in it. So that's a great connection. And we actually didn't mention this here. There's two things I wanted to mention that just came to mind. The first is that we didn't put it here, but we are launching a SciStarter ambassador program of volunteers that are going to be trained across the country in citizen science in order to better support their libraries, so that you have more resources, more hands to be able to offer these programs. So that's another resource that you may have locally, hopefully, fingers crossed, that will go global, our program, and there'll be lots of SciStarter ambassadors out there ready and willing to help. And then the second thing is the community partnerships. I think you hit on it, Jessica, with 4-H. Girl Scouts have a citizen science journey as one of the badges that they can complete. So there's a lot of connections that you may already have with citizen science that you don't know. So keep thinking about those and asking your communities. And actually, this is a perfect liaison, taking it to Robin. Thank you, Emma. That was really informative. And Robin's going to now, how do you, once you have sort of these foundational pieces, how do you build awareness and interest in your community?
Thanks, Tara and Emma. It's important that you engage both your staff and community with the who, what, where, and why, and how to be involved with citizen science, and become aware that your library is a hub for citizen science. So we're going to talk about how you can do that, starting kind of with an easy entry level, all the way to having full-blown programs. So to spark interest, SciStarter has a variety of free downloadable materials that make bringing awareness to your library users easy. A variety of resources at this website indicated at the bottom of this slide, promotional resources, gives you access to flyers, rack cards, bookmarks, buttons, and images that you can use either printed or electronically. Some libraries have used these assets to build their own citizen science microsites on their web pages, where they further let their community know they've got book lists of materials in the library that can be checked out to support citizen science, or explain the project kits that they're supporting for checkout with, checkout. You can use the materials to build a poster or a bulletin board, as you see in the upper right-hand side of this slide. This was an Oregon librarian who several years ago did a bunch of projects during their summer reading and created her own bulletin board. If you have book displays, these materials are great accessories to those, again, to provide information and to promote you as a hub for citizen science. If you do outreach, these materials are amazing for festivals that you may have a booth at STEM or STEAM nights at your local schools. Don't forget about going to outreach events at senior communities in Arizona. That's really big, and they always had us coming in talking about what was available through our library. So great way to promote citizen science. So some Arizona libraries also have the floor stand that you see on the lower right. This is a great way to draw attention that you are a hub for citizen science. We offer that poster for you to download and print and to put in such a floor stand. There's lucite little boxes below that you can put bookmarks or the rack cards. The rack cards have been developed uh, for just general information, as well as if you have developed one of our SciStarter kits. It says if the kit's available for checkout, or hey, you need to be put on a waiting list. So again, we've thought, or SciStarter has thought of a whole bunch of different ways to help you get the word out that you are a hub for citizen science. Next slide. So once you have kind of the materials out there and you're starting to create awareness, define what citizen science is to your community, think about hosting an introductory event. It can be as simple as promoting the Foundations of Citizen Science tutorial on your website. And here's another picture of that really adorable badge. And associated with that badge are the skills that people develop during taking that tutorial. So you can just say, go out there and learn. And this is also a great online tutorial for your staff. If you guys have professional goals you must achieve every year, ask if you can use this as one of your own, or ask if it can be assigned to your staff. That way your staff has a good foundation for understanding what citizen science is, because if they're not helping promote and making your community aware that this exists, it's not going to be as successful as it would be with their help. And then at the bottom of that tutorial webpage is the citizen science slides and speaker notes you can download to provide a program. We've heard from libraries that people like coming in the libraries for a program. So you can tailor this slide deck to meet your library and community's needs. But it's a great way to kind of get you started to offer such a program. And as mentioned, find a project that really speaks to your community, and maybe actually organize an event where you go outside, or there's some that we've talked about, like stall catchers, that you can do inside and actually have a hands-on experience doing and submitting data for a project. And then if you're ready to go to that next step and actually offer kits for checkout and circulation, build a kit. And I'm just a moment going to talk about those kits and circulate them to your staff, or I'm sorry, circulate them to your library users. And some ways to introduce that is to have an event, much like a book talk, have the kits out in front of the group and do a high-level overview of what's involved with the kit, what project or projects they can support, and maybe the directions that you'll find in the activity guide to actually do the research project. Another idea is maybe just have an information table with either one of your ambassadors we just discussed, volunteer and stand or sit at the table with some kits and explain, what they're all about. Okay, next slide. So here's the kits that SciStarter have developed. These kits are built by you, and we have a document that we'll talk about in just a minute and how to do it. But the kits we've developed are measuring light in the night, where again, as mentioned before, you have directions with a specific piece of equipment, the light meter, which is requested by the project people to go outside an hour after the sun sets, preferably on a moonless night, but not necessarily, and just point this light meter up, push a button, take the reading, and then submit this to a real-time map that shows people around the world have recorded these measurements. Then you have exploring biodiversity, where we suggest lens kits to put on smartphones or tablets, and go out in nature or in your backyard and take photos of living organisms, not cultivated like your, rose bush, but things that you would find in generally in nature. Upload it to the iNaturalist project, where it's building this huge cloud database that can be used by scientists or other people in understanding where and when and what kind of living organisms are being seen. Observing pollinators. Again, it supports the Great Sunflower Project, who is trying to understand what kind of pollinators and plants are around in our world. And, pollinators are very important because they help produce a third of our healthy and needed food sources. Zombie hunting, that supports the Zombie Watch Project, which is where people put out traps that you can make. It's a very inexpensive project kit to put together, and preferably near beehives. So if you're working with people who have hives, they hang these traps up with a light. And if bees are attracted at night and are to go into the trap, you observe them to see if they're infected with this zombie fly parasite. Monitoring air quality. Again, a kit that does require a specific instrument where you can either in a fixed position or through a mobile, like on your bike while you're hiking or walking, measure particulate matter in the air. And this helps the Habitat Map Project, who has provided curriculum material as well as action plans for communities who really want to affect change because of poor air quality. Taking this data to decision makers is then possible by collecting this data. And then finally, mapping mosquito habitats. This is a NASA Globe Observer project where you set traps out for mosquito larvae, or you find a mosquito habitat and take samples of the larvae and send photos of that larvae to the app and help NASA scientists understand if mosquitoes that normally aren't thought of in one area are now showing up because of climate changes. And of course, it's important to understand where mosquitoes and what type of mosquitoes exist because of the dangerous diseases they can carry. Next slide. So why did we choose these projects? Well, they can be done almost anywhere. The project scientists or researchers need this data. It's an ongoing project. And, it helps the community to have access to tools that they may not otherwise be purchasing on their own or even have at home. And most of the kits are fairly low cost. I will say that the light meter and the air quality instrument is a little bit more expensive, but there's lots of opportunities to apply for grants, and that's something else SciStarter does do, is help you learn of opportunities to get monies to support these kits. And then these kits, as I mentioned, can also help people as local, as much as locally as well as globally. Next slide. So how to get started on building a kit, use that website you see on the bottom of this slide, and you'll find directions and build a kit guides for each of the 6 projects. Also think of using these kits materials as templates. Maybe you have another project, which we've had libraries do, that are of particular interest to their communities. So again, you get free downloadable activity guide with the directions that you give to your library users in the kit, explain why the project is important, and then you'll get those specific kit related kit labels for marking the storage devices, bookmarks, rack cards, flyers to increase engagement and awareness, and also just general promotional resources to help promote this through websites or through printed material. Next slide. So we also provide information through those Build a Kit guides on how to get the kits ready for circulation. We have templates for security, for your barcode labels and the kit labels themselves. Again, we don't prescribe what kind of storage device you use. Lots of libraries like backpacks versus the plastic boxes you'll see. We also have entries in WorldCat that you can use to create your own bib records, or you'll know how to create an entry for WorldCat should you use that service. And then circulating, we suggest a 2-week period. We also have an optional borrowing agreement you can use to help kind of go through with your staff and library users, the equipment that's involved. If you do charge customers for lost and stolen material, it's a time to talk about that and explain the cost of the kit materials. And also a good time to talk about, is the kit renewable if they want to keep it up longer than your normal checkout period. Next slide, please. And then we are developing a map of all of our network locations, and this is what it looks like right now. I think currently our location map just talks about libraries with circulating kits, but we're going to have it so anybody that's interested in citizen science knows which libraries are aware of it and will help them get involved. Next slide, please. So here's some additional program ideas. And again, I'm hoping you guys, this is just getting some really great ideas and stirring your creative juices. So let's talk about 3 ideas that we have. One is a BioBlitz. I did several of those when I was working in Arizona. You organize a time and place, and you can even do this on iNaturalist, is create a BioBlitz where you define a place and how long the BioBlitz is going to last. It can go anywhere from a couple hours to several weeks or months. If you're going to do it as an actual program, 2 hours is usually good. If possible, get local experts on identifying organisms like beekeepers, maybe the high school environmental or biology club, master gardeners. We were fortunate to even get federal forestry people to show up with their families to participate. People from the local university came as well, from the biology, or in this case, a bee research department. So it really enriched participation, having those experts there, but not necessary. As I said before, iNaturalist, artificial intelligence is getting so good that when you put in and upload a really good photo of your organism, many times it'll identify it right then and there for you. Star parties, as we talked about, are another great idea for a program. You can talk about light pollution as a topic, or you can talk about the galaxies and talk about, well, how clear can you see it? Let's use the globe at night meter and measure, light pollution. Is this place better than another place maybe to observe stars? So lots of opportunities and topics to discuss during a star party. And again, that Stall Catchers Catchathon doesn't require specific tools, but if you have great internet access, so several people can work together on a catchathon where you're looking at those video clips of the mice, blood flow through the mice brains. You're helping create data for scientists with the stall catchers who are trying to solve cures for Alzheimer's. So again, a nice project to do indoors. Next slide, please. And here's one specific case study done by one of our network libraries in Sholo, Arizona. They created this whole evening of pollinator activities. They even were able to serve food at it, so people could get in from work and not worry about getting their families fed. In conjunction with another project they were involved with, they were able to offer seeds for plants that were attractive to pollinators. They had craft activities for kids, and then they also discussed, what pollinators are, why they're important, and again, sustaining our healthy food. So it was a great way, and they created their own promotional materials, but again, you can use what SciStarter has and build yours from those assets. right, so I think that pretty much does it for different ideas in our projects. I don't know, is there anything else at this point we want to talk about? I see lots of comments coming on the chat, or should I look at those while you're talking about the webinar?
Yeah, Emma and I've been answering them. And just some really great comments. I think people ideas are what am I trying to say? Gears are turning about
Great.
ideas, which is great. Before we jump into upcoming opportunities, we're going to talk about like additional professional development opportunities. I wanted to open it up to the floor if anybody wants to unmute and let us know, like, what ideas are bubbling up. What questions do you have right now about the resources that you've heard, or what other libraries are doing in the network? Feel free to chat.
Yes, I just summer reading program is a great time to really push this event, as we mentioned earlier. And Tara will be talking about how we're SciStarter is going to help with that.
Yes, I don't actually have that on an upcoming event slide yet because we haven't built the event on our event platform yet. But yes, we have for April. Last year we did this for the All Together Now summer reading theme. We're planning another citizen science in your summer reading program. The theme this year is Your Adventure Begins, I think. So we're thinking about how to connect citizen science with the summer reading theme. Usually it's very easy. Citizen science and community science is so broad, and there's so many ideas and topics out there that Adventure Begins Your Library, says Aiden. There's so many projects and topics that you can really connect it to the summer reading theme well, and they're one of our partners. So yeah, we're excited to present that webinar in April. Yes, lots of connections with the Adventure Begins, right? BioBlitz, going outside, observing your local nature. So let me take you through upcoming events and opportunities. You can always find the latest professional development opportunities on library-events. We encourage you to register even if you can't attend. We always send a comprehensive follow-up email after each one, so you can watch the recording, you can get all of the resources. But there's two big things happening in 2024 that we wanted to alert you to. The first is the eclipse, which is on April 8th. There's one actually in October, an annular, but we're focusing most of our efforts on the April 8th eclipse, which is a total eclipse for some. And I'm curious, there was somebody in Texas, Kristen, right? Were you in Texas? No, somebody was in Texas. Elizabeth, I'm curious, are you planning anything for the eclipse? Austin is one of the places where the eclipse will go over totality. Anyone else planning events during the eclipse? Let us know. There's great ways to connect citizen science to the eclipse. You can do citizen science projects before, during, and after the eclipse. You don't need to be in the path of totality. It's a great way to extend your eclipse programming, right? The eclipse, while amazing, lasts for 4 minutes at best in some places. So, and there's so much buzz around it, which we love. How can you leverage that buzz to using citizen science and really extend the impact of the eclipse day with some of these citizen science projects? You can find ones that are specifically eclipse oriented at scistarter.org/eclipse. And we have a webinar specifically about boosting your eclipse programming with citizen science on November 8th this year. So we encourage you to register for that webinar. And then April is Citizen Science Month, which also coincides with the eclipse. So it's kind of this, April's going to be a really big month for us. And what Citizen Science Month is really is a month-long celebration of citizen science. Use it as an opportunity to introduce your communities to citizen science during this month. There are a ton of, there's going to be a ton of events that are hosted by us online and in person that you can promote to your communities. Lots of our library partners host events. We encourage you to host an event and add it to our event database so that we can really generate buzz about citizen science. And we have a Planning for Citizen Science Month webinar December 13th of this year. One thing that we know and we love about libraries is that we start planning things very early, and so we keep pushing the Planning for Citizen Science Month webinar back earlier and earlier. So this year it's in December, so you have plenty of time to think about what programs or ways to promote citizen science during the month of April. And I didn't put this in the slides, but I should have, and I was mentioning in the chat, in October, we're doing more of an open forum webinar with Library Network members. We're going to be doing more small group conversations, technical support, around your programming. So we encourage you to join that if you really want to get your questions answered. We're going to have some breakout groups for technical support and just to get to know other folks that are doing citizen science in the network. And that's October, I don't want to quote myself, I think 18th.
That's true. 18th, yes.
Okay, good. Any questions? We have about 4 minutes left, and I do want to put the evaluation link to today's webinar in the chat so that you can all give us your feedback. We really do incorporate it after every single webinar. And the last thing to mention is that please use that email to email us. We all have access to it, so we're always answering. You know, we can answer you faster if you email us through that email, librarynetwork@scistarter.org. With any questions, we're here to direct you. This is what we're so passionate about. Our mission is with the Library Network is to really support you all. Aiden, no questions I could think of, but this has been helpful. Great. I'm so glad. We really have been thinking through this webinar, it's only an hour and there's a lot of stuff. So we hope that it gave you some great foundational tools to be able to move forward. Thank you so much, everyone. Here's a link to that survey again. Juices are flowing, wonderful. Let's get this programming started. And take that survey if you can, it's very short. Yes, Kendra, I'm gonna, and as soon as this webinar is over, we upload it to YouTube and then we'll send you the link. And I will include a link to the October 18th registration in the follow-up email. Probably tomorrow morning, I'm gonna send that email out because it takes a while to upload this webinar to YouTube. And so after we get all that done, we'll send out a follow-up email tomorrow morning. Thank you all so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time and we're here to support you. So feel free to reach out. Oh, thank you, Emma. Emma did put that link in the chat for the October 18th webinar. Thank you, everyone. See you soon.